Welcome back. Thank you for actually wanting to pay attention to me here. I will tell you again, karst is my absolute favorite thing to talk about. So I'm going to talk a lot. So feel free to fast forward or just peace out. What is super awesome about karst and caves to me is that it's like an entire ecosystem. It's like a whole world that is underground. And it just reminds me of like fairy tale stories when I was little. Ice Age, Dawn of the Dinosaurs, things like that, like movies like that. Just that when you're underground, you're seeing things that you can't see anywhere else. And it's a very, very fragile ecosystem. The water that's within caves is groundwater. So if anything would pollute a cave or anything like that, it's going directly into the groundwater. But so again, you can read that. I think super cool. There's organisms that live only in caves. There's certain organisms that live only in certain caves. And really cool rock formations, obviously. So I said in the intro how caves are formed. Your book, if you happen to be reading your book, I'm sure everybody is, goes into the full chemical reactions about carbonic acid. All you really need to know is that carbon dioxide, which is in the air, what we're breathing out, dissolves in the water. When that carbon dioxide dissolves in the water, it makes carbonic acid, and it's very slightly acidic. Not the same as when we're talking about like acid rain. That would be more like a sulfuric acid. This is slightly acidic. Limestone is the most common rock that gets dissolved, and it dissolves easily in slightly acid. If you're out in the field and you want to test a rock, lots of rocks are gray. If you drop a little bit of hydrochloric acid onto limestone, it'll bubble and fizz. So when I took field geology, we would carry a little teeny bottle of like low concentrated acid to dip on the rocks to test for limestone. There is an animation here of how caves form, super helpful if you want to check that out. And then I do go through caves first. Caves they're underground, but they have to have at least one opening to the surface that we can get in that's not man-made. We do man-made entrances to caves, but the definition of a cave is that it has an opening to the surface. We're going to have groundwater either had infiltrated at some time or still infiltrating and dissolving some of the rock. And making big passageways. This here is Crystal Cave. I think that's for most of you like a third grade field trip. I'm trying to remember which year we went. And yeah, so, if you want a cave experience that's close by, you can always go to Crystal Cave. It's 45 minutes away. I will say not my favorite cave, but I'm kind of a cave snob. So this is like the first rock as you're walking in. This would be a stalagmite, or also considered a dripstone feature. This cave, this is just a little introduction. This is the largest passageway in a cave. Some people call it the largest cave in the world. That's actually not true, because Mammoth Cave in Kentucky is the longest cave in the world, but Hong Song Dong has the largest passageway, which could actually fit a New York City inside the passageway. Okay, so this is just a little clip of some really cool pictures. We talked about Karsten Peter when we were talking about volcanoes. He was that crazy photographer that would like go into volcanoes. So of course he was one of the first Nat Geo photographers that would go into the cave. His explanation of the expedition is really awesome, and I link that later on. If you have time to watch it, he talks about like crazy bugs and caterpillars and all kinds of stuff. This is just like a really it's just the pictures that he took that were displayed in National Geographic set to a chant. So it's very relaxing. So I'm going to start off here with Luray Caverns in Virginia. These are not the first caverns. We've actually been to Skyline Caverns in Virginia too. I did limit how many pictures I put in here. I have a lot. But I know a lot of people go to Luray Caverns. It's probably a very common destination. It's along Shenandoah, which is a national park in Virginia, which we've talked about. Really neat features. Luray is lit up very nicely, so it's nice to take pictures in. A dripstone is any formation that's being built as water is dripping down, like we talked about, that water is dripping down, that calcite precipitates out of that and just deposits a tiny little bit of calcite, which is the sedimentary rock. So that happens very, very slowly over time. Stalactites are those dripstones that are going to be coming down from the ceiling. This here was above a pond, so like you can see the reflection is so pretty. I love the like little itty bitty stalactites. I think they just like look so fragile and cool. But you can think like a stalactite is holding on tight to the ceiling. So those are the ones in the ceiling coming down. And then as they're dripping down or water is flowing, we can get stalagmites, which are building up from the bottom up. So instead of coming ceiling down, they're going bottom up. This was in Luray Caverns. This is actually water's flowing over like a waterfall, but really, really slowly. And it's building up this calcite here going up. And, I went backwards, sorry. And then we have dripstone columns because as the stalactite is like depositing and dripping down, it's dripping water down onto the ground. So we can get a stalactite and a stalagmite actually growing up together. And then when they touch, they become what's called a dripstone column. So it's one big feature. This is a double dripstone column. So you can see this one's coming all the way down and touches the ground, and this one's going all the way up. That was pretty cool. That was also, again, in Luray. Another really fun cave that we went to, it's called the Lost River Canyon. This was, you actually took a boat tour through it. So if you've ever been out like by Penn State, there's Penn Cave in Pennsylvania that you can take boat tours through. Highly recommend it if you get the chance. Just a totally different kind of cave experience. It's also nice to be lazy and just like sit there. But they also are famous for, they call them these bright blue pools. Now, we were there after a nasty rainstorm, and the pools were really turbulent. So they weren't this bright blue color, but they're supposed to be really bright blue. But you notice that the pool, it's a perfectly circular shape, and that pool is actually a sinkhole. And that sinkhole dropped down, and then cave water filled it up. And then this is the entrance to Lost River. Like that's where you went in. There were like cars driving on top of that, which was kind of crazy. And then this was our boat tour. This is what the boats look like. That's how close you were to the ceiling. I don't love tight spaces, so, some deep breathing, but it was worth it. That's me, Elliot, Lily there. We did have to duck down at a couple points. And then what I thought was really interesting is they have like an underground ballroom there that you can, go get married in a cave or hang out. It used to be an underground nightclub. And then lastly, the cave I want to talk about is Mammoth Cave. I did in 6th grade, we had geography, and I did a report. We had to pick a national park we wanted to go to. So of course I picked Mammoth Cave. So I've wanted to go there since then, and we finally got to go this summer. We spent 2 days in Mammoth Cave. I could have spent weeks. But really there's Mammoth Cave is the largest cave in the world. It's the longest. It is over 400 miles of cave tunnels. So that's really neat. Our first day there, we just did like a historic tour, which you follow these steps down, you go into this big opening in the ground, which is the natural opening to the cave. And what floored me was this was unlike any other cave I was in because of how huge and open this room was. Like it wasn't claustrophobic at all. You could walk around, people could walk by you. Like it was like, oh, this is awesome. Really big, huge rooms. And this was just a very short tour, like self-guided. You just kind of walked yourself around. Then the next day, we decided we'd go for an actual tour. And this was, Elliot was just starting to walk. So this was a bit difficult. He had to be in a carrier, but they didn't allow backpack carriers, which we found out why quickly when we were in there. He had to be in a front carrier. So that was a little interesting. So up here, if you want to click on that and enlarge it, these are where all the different tours at Mammoth Cave are. So we took one where we had to take a bus around, that's the bus, into like this wooded area. And we actually descended through a sinkhole, which was pretty cool, but seriously butt kicking. It was 28 steps just completely down. And anybody that's afraid of heights, those like graded steps where like you look down and you can like see forever. Yeah, that's what they were. So I kind of spent that entire time like clinging to the handrail, but it was totally worth it. We wiggled through super tight passageways where like the rocks were totally up against you, and then you'd open up into these big grand rooms, and it was beautiful. It was a 2-hour tour. You were walking the whole time. It was definitely a butt-kicking hike, but was really, really beautiful. These were some of the main features. It was called, the tour that we took was called Domes and Dripstones. So you got to see a lot of the like really pretty dripstones. And I'm realizing that I didn't put the most famous one in here. So I'm going to go back and add that. So this is the Watoma Cave. These are all bugs that are on the ceiling that glow. So this is a famous cave for glowy bugs. You can feel free to check that out. And this would be like my dream field trip. So this is a bouncy like park, I guess, kind of thing in a cave. So it's like a trampoline park, basically, inside a cave. So yeah, that's awesome. It's in Europe. It's in Britain. Otherwise, I would totally be going there. And the last thing here about caves, let me make sure. Yeah, so the last thing I have here about caves, this is an interview with Karsten Peter where he talks about his experiences. My favorite part about this is he talks about when there was Grand Room, and you'll see the pictures. This Grand Room is like basically a jungle that is under the ground. So if you've seen Dawn of the Dinosaurs, Ice Age, that's what it reminded me right away. And he talked about when they were sleeping, they'd hear these like really crazy loud noises and wings, and he would say he expected to wake up and see dinosaurs like flying overhead. So it just really cool. So I encourage you to watch that. Again, it's 26 minutes. You don't have to. If you want a shorter tour of the cave, this is, I think, like 5 minutes long. This is drone footage. I feel like drone footage has kind of gotten a little like, oh yeah, it's awesome. And then you're like, oh, I prefer to watch the guys actually hike through. But all right, so told you I would nerd out about caves. I could seriously, easily go on for another 45 minutes, but I'm sure all your ears are bleeding if you actually watch this through the end, which is funny when I look on my YouTube analytics, like nobody watches till the end. But I am going to pick this back up with sinkholes. So if you did watch this and you haven't watched the video clips, you want to take a little break right now, stand up, stretch, go outside, go get a snack, and then get back to it.